In a business model that requires that you perform services for a customer and then you extend credit to that customer for a period of time, there's always a risk involved with that because the customer may not come back and pay you on time, or they may not pay you at all. And if this hasn't happened to you just yet, then you probably haven't processed enough invoices. You'll keep processing invoices, you'll have that problem at some point. So that's not something that you can control, whether they pay on time or not. But what you can control is how you choose to respond to that situation. And that will be very important, as it'll chart a path moving forward with that relationship, whether you'll move forward on good notes or maybe you won't move forward at all. So in this video today, we want to talk about how to handle this situation. So come on inside, sit back, relax, and let's talk business. In order to respond to something appropriately, first we want to understand what has happened. And what's happened here, if you have not gotten paid on time, is the shipper has missed on his responsibility. Now, the shipper missing on his responsibility does not have anything to do with you as a freight broker missing on your responsibility and paying the carrier. You see, because the carrier has done what he said he would do. He delivered the load on time, so now it's time for him to get paid. So we don't want to miss in that responsibility in paying the carrier. Now, when you don't get paid on time, it's relatively easy to see it coming if you're keeping up with your invoices, tracking which invoices have been paid and which have not. And when you see that a customer has started to slow down in payments, you're probably then going to be going back and forth with the accounting department, checking on invoices. Hey, has this invoice been paid? What's the update on this invoice? You probably start off that way, and then it may move to payments slow even further down till you actually miss payments. And then when you miss a payment, sometimes they'll say, hey, we'll send a check out, and then it may even be a situation where you get a check and now you have a bad check. So now what we want to figure out is, how do we handle these situations in the best way? Because these things happen, and they happen more often than you might think. So the very first thing that I'm going to do in that situation, if I start to get my payments slowing down, number one, we're going to the accounting department and we are just going back and forth in email, talking to them about different payments. And then the next step, if a payment is actually missed or if a check for some reason bounces, I'll talk to that shipper about that situation so that they understand, and they are going to have some inside information that we don't have, and they can probably go to the accounting department and speed things up as far as your payment is concerned. I've experienced that directly. I've had a situation where a shipper sent me a bad check. They were making up for a payment being late, cashed a check, and the check was bad. And we didn't get bent out of shape about that, because these things happen in this business. Doesn't matter whether you're a big business or a small business. Cash flow is a problem for all of us. So we contacted the shipper and made him aware of what had taken place, and he fixed it. He called accounting, and accounting sent us an electronic transfer for the amount of the check and for the bounce charges that came with that check. And because that situation was handled in a very professional way, I think the shipper took notice of that, and we got bigger segments of that shipper's load. He started to give us even more opportunities. So I think it's paramount. It's very important in how you respond to these situations, because they could affect you moving forward. But I also think that we have to strike a balance between understanding and firmness, because we're in the business of getting paid. In order for us to be successful, in order for us to pay carriers and continue to pay those carriers on time, we have to get paid on time. So we have to make sure that the shipper understands that it's important for us to get paid and get paid on time. Because the last thing that I want to do is to have to take this to credit recovery services. I want to handle this at my own level. But if it starts to exceed 60 days, then maybe there's not an intention to pay it. Maybe the problems are bigger than we think, and we have to get paid. So credit recovery services will be our last resort. And earlier you heard me say that there are risks involved anytime you extend credit to a customer. But good business people also have ways of mitigating that risk. And one way of mitigating risk in this particular situation is to have a factoring company in place. And that factoring company will make sure that that customer's credit is checked before they bring them on, before they approve them. Once they go through certain measures, then they say that the customer is approved. If they don't pass the measures that they take the customer through, then they won't approve them for credit. In conclusion, we don't live in a perfect world. And unfortunately, there will be times where you don't get paid or you don't get paid on time. I think it's important when those situations do occur to handle it appropriately. And the best way I've found to handle those situations is to keep a level head, remove emotions, and deal with the actual facts. I've found that always works out best. So if you want to learn more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. It will give you a look into the freight broker business, let you see how it works. I'll bring you into my office and you can watch over my shoulder as I move loads, talk to shippers, talk to carriers. That way you can get a really good idea of exactly how the business works. And if you want to know more about how we search for trucks, post our loads so the trucking community can see them, and then how we go in and get a rate to move loads from point A to point B, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top, because the bottom is much too crowded.